one and all. In the last class, we were discussing related to the evolution of industrial relations, industrial truce resolution in the year of 1962, and also we were discussed industrial disputes and meaning definitions, industrial disputes, and the causes of industrial disputes, and also uh, consequences of industrial disputes, methods to reducing of industrial disputes, and next thing, forms of industrial disputes. It means introduction, measures to control industrial disputes, forms of industrial disputes, and strikes and lockout, gheravs. We already studied about this. Next, and also we are discussed related to the grievance handling discipline. Like these, so many topics we were discussed, and also today we want to discuss about the industrial discipline. Yesterday I was started a little bit. Today I will give information regarding to industrial discipline. What's the meaning of industrial discipline? This is, you see here, this is the most important thing. Industrial discipline refers to orderly working of the employees of an industrial undertaking in accordance with the rules and regulations and conventions. Discipline is a force that prompts of an individual to observe rules and regulations, procedure to attain an objective. Whatever the fixing of objectives by the industries that should be achieved when they are maintaining of a good discipline in the industries. It means whatever they are prepared rules and regulations based on that, the industries are to be maintaining of a good relationship, and this is one of the opposition of a confusion. There is no matter of any confusion when they have a discipline. It means whether they take an example for us. When we are wake up early in the morning, 5 o'clock. After that, we should brush up and also go to walk and come back and again bathing, and next we want to move. Take a After the bathing, we should take a breakfast and then move to the working place. Like this is one of the order. It means there is no confusion. It's a continuous process. Like this in industries also, there is no matter of any confusion related to industrial dispute, industrial discipline for the attainment of industrial goals. Then this is having its own nature. That is, a maintenance of a discipline is a prerequisite to attainment of a maximum productivity. When they are fixing the conditions to each and every people, they were concentrating of the producing of a goods and services, not only for the firm but also the entire nation. It means every nook and corner of the whatever the industries are located, whether they are maintaining of a discipline that should be affected. It is only because of that. After all, everything matters is realization. No amount of pressure can be succeeded in the wrong changes. Unless committed to improve or learn. We can learn whenever we have a discipline. Then this is having its own natures. According to Megishtan, discipline involves the following three steps. That is, number one, self-discipline. Yes, of course, each and every people, when they have a discipline, then only they can maintain their own cultured life. Whether they take an example for this, just I told you, and discipline in himself with the determination to achieve the goals that he has to set himself in life itself. Nobody will fix the what objectives of any other life. They have to fix their own life. Orderly behavior, that is also most important thing. Wherever they want to behave in a different circumstances, in a different what organizations in the circumstances, orderly behavior is the most important thing. This is also one of the nature of our industrial discipline. And punishment, without a punishment in some circumstances we can't preventing the indiscipline. When a worker goes stray in his conduct, he has to be punished for the same, and the recurring of must be prevented. Then these are all the nature of discipline. And types of industrial discipline. What are the types of industrial discipline? That is a positive discipline and as well as the negative discipline. In the positive discipline, according to Spiegel, positive discipline does not replace the reason, but also applies the reason to achieve the common objectives. What they are fixing, the common objective means achieving a profit or providing a social service in the services sector or any other things that should be fixed by the industries. That is an positive discipline involves creation of an atmosphere in the organizations where the employee is willing to conform to the established rules and regulations. Positive discipline can be achieved through rewards and effective leadership. When we have a positive mind, we can control whatever the subordinates. We can become a leaders. Without a positive discipline, we can't be able to. Then it implies a sense of duty to observe the rules and regulations. It is called a self-discipline. Self-discipline is also playing a major role, and it involves the creation of a favorable atmosphere in the organization where the employee is willing to conform to the established rules and regulations. And positive discipline can be achieved through rewards and effective leadership. And it is more effective than negative discipline. When we have a positive mind, we can do anything. When we have a negative mind, we can't do anything. It means we want to, whether to take an example for this, when a person he's suffering from some diseases, when he have a willingness or a positive attitude, he can survive in some several years. Whether he don't have a what positive discipline or a positive attitude, he can't. He can. He's become dead like this here also. It is more effective than the negative discipline. Positive discipline promotes a cooperation and coordination with the formal organization. In the formal organization, it is most important thing. It means whatever their positive discipline is having with the different peoples, that should be creating of a cooperation and as well as the coordination between the peoples. And these are all the positive discipline. Then negative discipline. What is the meaning of a negative? Already I told you, given an example. If I don't have a capacity to walk, I don't have a capacity to run, that should be decided by ourselves. That is negative mind. We can put our efforts, we can walk and we can run. And this is the what positive. In this negative discipline, it is a corrective. The discipline involves the imposition of a penalties or punishment to the workers to obey the rules and regulations. When they are punishable under the negative discipline, and objective employees do not violate the rules and regulations. Whatever the rules and regulations are to be framed by the industries, that cannot be violated by the each and every workers. They can't neglected. Negative discipline does not eliminate undesirable behavior. When he have a negative thought, we can't change him. It is merely opposes it. It requires a regular monitoring, causing wasting of a time. Yes, of course, he is having a negative mind. In that circumstances, we should regularly monitoring. In that circumstances, that is creating a wastage of time that cannot be utilizing it properly. Punishment also causes resentment and hostility. Then, under grievance, under negative discipline, penalties are used for the workers to obey the rules and regulations. In other words, workers try to adhere the rules and regulations out of fear of warnings. Whether they don't have a careless attitude, when they have a careless attitude, and also they are not worrying about the penalties and other forms of punishment, this indiscipline or negative or punitive approach. And this is an unfavorable state that is subject to employees to frustration, and the consequent result is low morale. These are all the negative discipline. Then features of industrial discipline. What are the features of industrial discipline? In your examination point of view, you may expect the questions. Define a discipline. What are the features of industrial discipline? And what is an industrial discipline? Explain the types of industrial discipline. Like this, we may expect the questions. In the features of industrial discipline, Number one, discipline is a self-control. Yes, of course. Here, one's effort to self-control to come from the organization rules. When he is a control himself, the organization will also control the rules and regulations procedure which has been established, and successful attainment of an organizational goal, we can easily achieving of our organizational goal. And negative approach, it means discipline encourages people to undertake some activities on the one hand, and restrains them from outstanding undertaking others. Negative approach. Then positive approach, just I told you, it is similar to the negative mind or a positive mind, like this. Here also the negative discipline, and also let's see positive discipline. Here, in a negative discipline, it encourages the people to undertake some activities on the other end, and positive operative discipline is also imposes a penalty of rules and regulations formed by the organizations. In these ways, these are all the different features of our industrial discipline. Then it is having its own objectives. What are these objectives? It means here the objectives of a discipline are as follows. That is, number one, to motivate an employee to comply with the company performance standards. Each and every moment, each and every people, they need a what motivation in the working place for the performance of the whatever they are fixing the standards, and to maintain respect and trust between the supervisor and employee. Each and every people, they have to given their own respect. That should be respected, respect given by the employees to the supervisors, the supervisors to the employee. Like this properly administered can create a problems low morally and restraint ill will between the employees. And in case of improvement in the employee's behavior, if any, will be relatively short-lived, and supervisor will need to discipline the employee again and again. Then come to the point of what next to improve the performance of the employee. Then here, the poor task performer should not be applied while the employees are not training or a job, learning the job. Should employees discipline for the problems beyond the control, failure to meet output standards due to the lack of raw materials, then to ensure the moral and working efficiency of the employees, to foster industrial peace, which is the very foundation of the industrial democracy. And like these are all the objectives of industrial discipline. Then, what are the causes of industrial indiscipline? We should know about this. This is unfair management practices. This is one of the reason for the common causes of industrial dispute. Unfair management practices like wage discrimination and non-compliance with the promotional policies, transfer policies, or any other what payment of a low wages and delayed payment and low quick work life, creation of a low quick quality of work life. These are all the unfair management practices in the indiscipline cases. Absence of effective leadership. Effective leadership, when we can expect when they are having a discipline. Otherwise, we can't expect here also in the even the indiscipline is a kind of test because of the absence of effective leadership. It's a this poor management the entire what employees group in the area of directions, guidance, or instructions. In this is results in indiscipline. Then communication barriers. As we know about this, what's the meaning of discipline? When the two or more people stand together making an when the two or more people discuss it with each other in a convenient language, or transferring of information from one person to another person, that is required as communication. This is also communication barrier, which one? The indiscipline. And absence of the human resource, human Sorry for the interruptions. Some technical issues is taken place. Sorry for that. Then communication barriers. Communication, just I told you, transferring of one information from one person to another person with a convenient language or a understandable language. Based on that, communication barriers is absence of what human approach on the part of a superior result or a frustration or indiscipline among the workers. The what the creating of what indiscipline among the workers, they become a frustration and wearing disciplinary measures. Consistently, disciplinary actions must be there in an organizations when they are doing what indiscipline, showing an indiscipline to provide a equal justice to all the concern and at different times and for everyone. The same standard of disciplinary measure should be taken, otherwise it may give a rise to the growing indiscipline in the industry in future itself, not only for the current situations, in the future also. And do defective supervision has also taken a place when they are indisciplined. Common causes for the indiscipline, defective supervision. Supervision is the most important role in an organization. When they are effectively supervised, then the organization will run smoothly. Many disciplinary problems will be rooted from the faulty supervision. The attitude and behavior of the supervisor may create many problems like this. This is also one of the cause of indiscipline and inadequate attention to the personal problems. Delay in the solving the personal problems, developing a frustration, whether they are in the whether it's related to parents or children or any others. There should be given a frustration among the individual workers. The management should be proactive so that there is no discontent among the workers. And victimization of the subordinate also result in the indiscipline. Then the management should not exploit the workers where they are exploiting the workers, that is the creative. This is also one of the cause for the indiscipline. Then divide and rule policy. As we know about this, whether you are working in an organizations or any other companies or elsewhere, some of the managers, many managers in the business obtains secret information about other employees through their trusted assistants. In that circumstances, they were collecting the information and spying on the employees is only the productive activism, vicious atmosphere and undesirable in the organizations. Related to this, the Henry Fayol has rightly pointed out that dividing enemy forces to weaken them in the clever, but dividing the one team is grave sin against the business. In this is also one of the major causes for the indiscipline, deferring settlement of employee grievances. The employee grievances cannot be put off by deferring or neglecting their solutions. The grievances should be properly inquired into and settled by the managers in a reasonable period. Neglect of grievances often result in a reduced performance, low morale, and as well as the indiscipline among the employees. And misjudgment in the promotion and placements. Misjudgment in the personal matters like a promotion and placement contribution to the growth of indiscipline in an enterprises. These are all the causes of indiscipline. You may expect the questions. And disciplinary procedure. What are the disciplinary procedure is really taken at the time of what default done by the workers. Disciplinary procedures are starting the process of discipline. It is essential to be held in a preliminary inquiry to know the what if a prima facie of the case of indiscipline or misconduct exit. Issue of a charge sheet, that's the first step. Prima facie case of misconduct is established, the management should proceed to issue a charge sheet to the employee. Charge sheet is merely a notice of the charge and provides the employee an opportunity to explain his conduct, whatever he is facing. Then, second one is consideration of explanation. On getting the answers for the charge sheet served, the explanation furnished should be considered, and if it is not satisfactory, no disciplinary actions should be taken. Suspension of a pending inquiry. Passing of a suspension order in an administrative nature and suspension is not punishment. It's a purpose is to only forbid the delinquent to the worker office, and it is an exclusion dominant of the employee revoke the suspension order. Then holding of inquiry. First step is issue of charge sheet. Next is a consideration of explanation, whatever they gave the explanation of whatever they are given a notice for that, what they he given a reply, and suspension pending inquiry is also taken a place, and holding of inquiry. Inquiry officer should be appointed to hold the inquiry, and notice to this effect should be given to the concerned worker. The principal natural justice must be followed. Beyond the rules and regulations, they can't conduct the holding of an inquiry. And progressive and order of a punishment. When they are proved in the disciplinary action can be taken when the misconducted of a employee is proved while deciding the nature of a disciplinary action. Employees previous record precedence effects of the actions on the other employees, etc. These are all the what disciplinary procedures has to be followed. And progressive disciplinary action. What it means, the company has adopted a progressive disciplinary policy to identify the address employee and employment related problems are cleared about the related to employees. They were taken addressing the employees, and also the collecting the information related to the problem of the employment. Here, the first step is progressive disciplinary action. First step is verbal caution. Verbal caution means face-to-face caution is to be given by the employer to the employee. It's a temporary record of a reprimand of the employee. Then written reprimand. The second step is a progressive discipline progress in the writing warning. In effect, it is the first and formal stage of the disciplinary procedure. This is because the written warning becomes a part of the employee's official personal file. This is achieved by not only giving a warning to the employee, but sending a copy of HRM to be inserted to the employee's permanent record. Then third step is suspension. Suspension is lay off. It means temporarily sending outside from the working place. This is another next disciplinary step. Usually taken only prior to the steps have to be implemented without the desired outcome. Then dismissal, the management ultimate disciplinary punishment is dismissing the problem employee. Dismissal should be used only for the most serious offenses. It may be in the only feasible alternative when an employee behavior serious interference in department or the organization operation. In that circumstances, they were taken a action that is dismissal. Then hot stove rule. It is also one of the progressive disciplinary action. The hot stove rule is a Douglas McGregor gives a good illustration to how to impose a disciplinary actions without generating resentment. This rule draws analogy with touching a hot stove and undergoing discipline. See, when we are touching a hot stove, that give a water. immediate when we are touching the heart stove or heart what a cooker, suddenly we are taken steps for the precautionary measures. Like this, here also, the discipline is immediate with a warning, consistent, and impersonal. These four characteristics, according to MacGregor, applied for the discipline and survive, self-serving, and many we expand. When you touch a one hot stove, burn your hands. The bur- the burn was immediate. Will you blame to the hot stove for burning your hand? Immediately, you will understand the cause of effect of offense. Like this, the hot stove rule is also playing a major role for the progressive disciplinary actions. That settlement of industrial disputes, what it means. Again and again, we are using the word discipline, the disputes. It means there is no what a difference. There is a differences between the employer and as well as the employee in the working place. In that circumstances, the disputes is taken a place. There is no matter of any coordination or a cooperation between these peoples, or workman and the employee, employee and labor, employee and employers. In that circumstances, the disputes are taken a place. We need to settle that cases. We have a different rules and regulations for the settlement of industrial disputes. Settlement means a settlement arrived in the course of conciliation proceedings and includes a written agreement between the employer and the worker arrived at the otherwise than in the course of conciliation proceedings, where such agreement has been signed by the both the parties. When they are putting an agreement, there is no matter of any disputes are arise beyond the that agreements. The disputes are arise, that should be need a settlement. This is having its own instruments. That is the methods of settlement is like this. They were conducting of a investigation. That is the first and foremost step. This is conducted by a court or a board of appointment by the government. Whether it's a court or by the government is appointed by a particular person for the conducting of an investigation. If the investigation is conducted either by either or both the parties have to be disputes, it is voluntarily. If the government appoints a court inquiry, whether it's an it is not a favor into the employer or employee, that should be negotiated. It's taking place with the consent of the both of the parties. Then conciliation. Again and again, we are using the word the conciliation. Conciliation is a process by which representatives of the both workers and the employers are brought together before the third party for the settlement. That is a conciliation. That is in each and every industries that is having their own conciliation board. They can settle. Then arbitration is also a procedure in which the neutral third party study the bargaining situation, listen to both the parties and gather the information, then makes the recommendation to binding on the parties. That is arbitration. Compulsory arbitration or adjudication. Adjudication means mandatory settlement of industrial disputes by the labor court or the tribunal. That is another steps for the what settlement of industrial disputes. These are all the methods of industrial disputes. You may expect the questions. Define settlement of industrial. What is the settlement of industrial disputes? Explain the methods of settlement of industrial disputes. You may expect the questions. Voluntary and compulsory conciliation. Here, the voluntary conciliation, what it means, where the voluntary conciliation machinery is constituted on the joint basis. It should be include equal presentation of the employer and as well as the worker. Here also, the both the parties voluntarily come and consult. The procedure should be free of charge. There is no matter of paying any fees and early settlement. Such time limits for the proceedings as may be prescribed by the national laws or regulations, set of rules and regulations in the national level. Provision should be made to enable the procedure to be set in motion, either on the initiative of any other parties, disputes, or by the voluntary conciliation authority. Then, if a dispute has been submitted to the conciliation procedure with the consent of all the parties concerned, it should encourage to abstain from strikes and lockouts while conciliation is in progress. Then all the agreements which the parties may reach during the conciliation procedure should be drawn up in writing and be regarded equivalent to the agreements concluded in the usual manner. Then compulsory conciliation. Conciliation under Dispute Act 1947, the appropriate government may or by the notification in the official gazette appoints a number of persons to be conciliation officer charged with the duty of mediation in the promoting the settlement of industrial disputes. A conciliation officer may be appointed for a specific area. It means they are having their own jurisdictions, or for the specified industries in a specified area, or for one or more specified industries, or and either permanently or for a limit period. Then arbitration. What is the meaning of arbitration? Just I told you, if the two parties to dispute fail to come an agreement either by themselves with the help of the mediator or conciliation, parties would agree to submit the disputes to an impartial authority whose decision they are ready to accept. The essential elements is voluntary arbitrations are the submission of disputes to an arbitrator, the subsequent attendance of a witness and investigation is also taken place in the arbitration. And the enforcement of an award may not be necessary and binding it because there is no compulsion. And voluntary arbitration may be specially needed for dispute arising under the agreements where they are making an agreement between the two parties, where they are not complete the settlement of a disputes in that circumstances that is required. Then this is having its own advantages and as well as the disadvantages. The advantages are like the if the voluntary acceptable by the settlement of both the parties should be greater. Arbitration is entered by the agreement. It is more flexible. It takes a less time rather than the other methods of settlement of industrial disputes. It is more informal, and here, the disadvantages is there is no greater chance of implementation. It deprives labor of its right to strike. Judgment is often arbitrary and can often be biased. It more directive than participative. In case of delay, this can affect moral of the disputes. Procedure for the arbitration. Then technological change and industrial relations. You can read yourself procedure for the arbitration, national arbitration promotion board, evaluation of working of violation, voluntary arbitration, and here technological change of industrial relations. What it means, we should know about this. The interrelationship between the technological change and industrial relations has time and again be focused attention of various groups in the society. Here, Haber, Farham, and husband have identified certain changes in the jobs and influence skills can be called technological changes. That is, number one, scientific management or time and motion studies, changes in a location of plants, shift in a product demand, changes in machinery and automation like this. Then, forms of technological change that should be categorized is like this: the anticipated change. There are changes that are planned ahead of a time and occurs intended, that is an intention. Then emergent change. There are the changes that arrive spontaneously from local innovation and not or originally anticipated or intended. Opportunity based change. There are changes that are not anticipated ahead of time but are introduced purposefully and intentionally during the change process in response to unexpected opportunity. Then attitudes of new technology. In the each and every organizations where they are adopting of a new technology, the attitudes will take a place for the new technology. Today's workers clearly recognize the benefits of increasing connectivity and flexibility that internet and all of their various gadgets and afford them on the job. The negative attitude of new technology, fear to unknown in the minds of the workers. Whether to take an example for the banks in the world, some of the workers in the verge of retirement, they don't know about the computers, how they want to use the what computers with the internet. In that circumstances, the negative attitude will take a place. Fear to lose jobs or curtailment of responsibility due to mechanization, and the fear to consequent of displacement. Whether they have a fear, there is no matter of any implementation like this that is also taken a place, and global approach and any other things should be taken a place. Then come to the point of trade unionism. What's the meaning of a trade union? We already used it so many times. Union means it's a form from the employee group, from the two or more employees making an what a group that is called a union. Here, trade union also called as a labor union, association of workers in a particular trade or industry or a company created for the purpose of securing the improvements in pay, benefits, working conditions, and social and political status through collective bargaining. It means bargaining with the employers, whatever they need benefits from the employers by the employees. In that circumstances, they need a trade union. Without a trade union, they can't able to bargaining with the what employers. Definitions of a trade union. A history of the trade unionism in the year of 1894 by the Sydney and Bertrand Webb. Karl Marx described that trade unions, thus the value of the labor and power, constitute the conscientious explicit foundation of the trade unions, whose importance for the working class can scarcely be overestimated. Then the trade union having its own characteristics. The trade union is an association, either the employers or employees or independent workers. They can make a what a trade union is. The trade union is a continuing a permanent rather than the temporary or casual combination. Membership of a trade union is voluntary. Generally, there is no legal or other pressure to join a trade union, or a person can join a leave with the trade union is a free will. The trade union also perform political and ancillary functions. They are also act indulge with. They are also uh, 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 joining the hands with the politics. That is also misused by the politicians or political place. Functions of a trade unionism. The functions are like this: to secure fair wages to the workers. That is also taken a place. Without a fair wages, they can't able to work. In that circumstances, the trade union is taken a place steps to safeguard the security of a tenure and improve the conditions of a service, to enlarge opportunities for the promotion and the training, to provide education and cultural and recreational facilities, to cooperate and facilitate the technological advance by broadening the understanding of our workers on its underlying issues. Then union movement in India. What it means? The predominance of employer and employee relationship is associated with the rise of modern industry and large production units. Great transformation which users in the industrial society began in Great Britain in the latter half of the 18th century. Deep in the 19th century, the movement spread on a dozen of other countries, accelerated industrial development, began in around 1830 in France and Belgium and United Nations, around 1815 Germany, around 1870 in the Sweden, and Japan around in the 1819 in Canada and Russia. And with the trade union movement in India, the entire period of growth for the trade unionism will, up till now in the conventionally divided into three periods. That is the first period in the year from the 1879 to 1918, the first period. The second period 1980 to 1947. The third period is 1947 to till date post independence. Like this, the trade union movement in India has taken a place. Then Trade Union Act of 1926. Trade Union Act of 1926. A trade union may be defined as a voluntary association and of its employees to protect and promote their interests through collective actions. Many trade unions are influenced by the political ideologies, leading to inter-union rivalries, thus affecting their effective working mechanism to achieve their interest and weakening the trade union movement. Involvement of a political leaders in the union have resulted in the members of unions becoming a passive in taking up their activities. Hence, the trade unions are not as strong enough they should be. According to Section 2B of the Trade Union Act of 1926, Trade Union Act, any combination of whether persons, whether the temporary or permanent, or primarily for the purpose of regulating the relationship between the workers and employers, between the workers, and imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or a business. It includes the federation of two or more unions. In India, the trade unions constituted three types of labor organizations, namely craft union, industrial union, and general union. Then come to the point of collective bargaining. So many types. We are so many times we are discussing the collective bargaining. Collective bargaining. What it mean? Here, there is a various ways out of the same. Collective bargaining is one of the tool where the representatives of the both the parties come to an agreement, which is binding on the both the parties. The bargaining can be related to the wage fixation, facilities to be provided by the to the employees by the employer, retirement benefits on the and the collective bargain is one of the most effective